Yo, what up? It's your boy T-Dubbie Solo, and today we're going to talk about using Serato DJ with your driverack. Now, I got people comment on you got certain people will use different type of software, and certain software doesn't come with a headroom settings, such as it does. Now, Serato DJ doesn't have one. So now you depended on not only your hardware, that's your high, mids, and low EQs and your gain and your master, but you also got to depend on this. And this is how you would set your dB as well. I guess you can say that, because this is the master that controls everything that's going through this software. So I'm gonna show you how to do that to set your dry rack with your Serato DJ, since it doesn't have a headroom setting like it would Serato itch. So here we go. Now, first things first, like I said, you always start with the source. Okay, I got my drive rack going, it's turned on. Now the first thing you want to do is to make sure everything is flat, no EQ, make sure the limiter is off, make sure your mains and your sub are set to 0 dB. So that way you would get a good head start when it comes to setting your limiters and be able to apply EQ later when you play some music after the paint noise. So the first thing first, okay, we go to setup, press the setup button, and this is it's selected to sub, and make sure everything, when you hit the next page button, make sure everything is set to 0 dB, both the sub and the main. So here's the main output, here's the sub output. I would explain the frequency curves later, but for right now we're just going to set everything flat, nothing apply to or take away. Now you hit the EQ button and make sure that this is turned off and everything's flat. Hit the EQ button again. Now you're on your main output, make sure that is off. Same thing with your sub, make sure that is off as well. I would explain later why. And next thing, hit your compressor limiter button and make sure that is off. Off, and most important, make sure it's turned up all the way to 20 dB. Normally it's already set up that way once you go into it, but sometimes it's different if you set a different preset. So you hit compressor limiter button again. Now you're on the sub channel, make sure that is off, and most important, 20 dB as well, make sure that's all the way up to this highest setting. Now that plays a big role when it comes to setting your levels right. Hit it again. Here's your overall, your main plus your sub, make sure that is off, both off. I never use it, so make sure both of them are off. Okay, now sub harmonics, forgot to mention that, make sure that is off. So once you're done, hit preset. You had everything flat, everything's totally flat, nothing applies to. Now the next step is, if you have paint noise like I do right now, I am using Serato DJ. I do have Serato itch, but since people have Serato DJs, they don't have headroom setting, so you have to look at your master as your headroom setting pretty much. And there's a couple of options on each channel that's got a little bit of adjustment right there, and that's got a little bit of adjustment right there, and then I'm going to explain later. But for right now, let's just focus on this. But most important, make sure this is centered, and make sure that is centered, or whatever paint noise you load up, which I got to load up on this side, so make sure that the gain on the software is centered. Here's my paint noise, make sure it's loop, so that way you can check all your meters and all that. The hardware, I had it load up to this deck. As you can see, it's blinking and it's ready to go. Make sure your pitch is set to 0 also. Make sure the key lock is off so it doesn't affect the pink noise performance. Make sure the key lock is off. Make sure your pitch is set to 0%. And for the faders, I always have mine all the way up. That's just how I DJ. I have my faders all the way up. My low, mids, or highs are in the middle, and my gains in the middle. I use that to tweak my volumes. I don't never do this. Some DJs will have it in the middle, which that's fine. You can do it that way. But for me, this is how I had it. I always had mine turned up like that and use that as a reasonable volume to my overall volume, whatever I'm mixing in or taking away. But you don't have to do that. You can start off whatever you feel comfortable with it and still have the same purpose. But for now, I'm just going to do it my way. So all the way up. For me, you don't have to do that. Make sure your bass, mids, and triples are centered. Make sure the gain is centered. Make sure the master is down, all the way down. And once you achieve that, make sure your effects is not turned on or anything. Make sure they not turned on. Make sure everything is off and just ready to go. So now here we go. I'm going to go ahead and play my pink noise. As you can see, it started off pretty good. There's no peak light showing. It's pretty much dead center to the 0 dB. As you will notice, besides the bass, mids, and treble, and the gains are center, and the master's all the way down. And then you notice that the dry rack doesn't do anything. It's because of that. That's okay. You look on your software. Like I said, make sure that is centered for the pink noise that you're selecting on your deck. Make sure that is center. And most important, make sure it looks like this. Keep that center, and the green meter should barely touch the yellow. That's how you want it to look. That's clean. So now here's the fun part. As you increase the master, watch your dry rack. All 3 meters should go off at the same time until you go up to, my advice is up to 6. You can have it at 12, which is fine. But like I said, don't have too low of a headroom. I mean, you can, but my opinion is I would have it either to 12 or 6. Let's just say all the way to 6, but never 0. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna turn up the master volume on this NS7. Turn the master volume on here. Slowly turn the master volume all the way up, and you should see these 3 lights go off at the same time, and I'm gonna explain more later. So here we go. I'm turning it up slowly. Now watch. Okay, now that looks good. Get a closer look. Input up to 6. Main out up to 6. Subwoofer up to 6. Okay, now that's clean. No EQ or nothing applied to this. Limiter, everything is turned off. And here's how my master knob looked. It looked like this, which is fine. You can back it down a little bit and it will still be yellow. So anyway, once you're done doing that, you can set your limiters on both of these right now, which I know they flash, and I can turn it up a little bit. There we go. A solid yellow. So what you want to do is oh, actually you can't have that showing. I know it's peaking red a little bit. I guess the next thing you can do is play some really good music, some jazz music, some music that's, you know, if you play music that's down low, they don't have very good quality. So play some really good music or commercial music so you get a nice clean signal. Because right now we just testing the paint noise to see where our level is at. We're not going to limit nothing yet And the reason why I tell you not to limit nothing yet is because, you know, every music is different. If you limit it right now doing the paint noise, by the time you play some music, it will work, but sometimes it won't work. And I know I made some mistakes. So once you get the level nice and warm and not hot, play some really good jazz music or any music that's commercial use that has a really crispy cleared sound, and just play with it, and then you go to your speakers, whether you got passive speaker, let's say if your amplifier is down here with the lights in it, or if you have power speakers like I got, just play some really good music at this setting. Make sure you turn the master back down when you're done doing the paint noise, and make sure your speakers are not on doing the paint noise, because you don't want to listen to it as your adjustment, because it will hurt your ears. So once you're done with that, stop the paint noise, turn the master back down, leave everything at that setting, make sure everything else is on that setting, and just play some good music. Once you do that, go to your speakers, mess with the volumes, and just listen to it. If it sounds really good and you ain't got no clip lights going off, that's okay, you have a good start. But if you just want to turn it up to where it will clip, that's when you like I said on my other video, which I'm gonna go ahead and put a link right now, so that way you can click on it and it will show you the relationship between clipping and limiting. So if you see it right now, go ahead and click on it and it would explain more. So now skip all that. Let's just say you got everything set right and everything is good. What you want to do is, but see, and this is where it gets hard. A lot of people, I gotta tell you this, because this is where it gets hard. Everybody has different equipment. You might have the same equipment like I got, different software, whether it's a Serato DJ or if you have Serato Itch. They all different from each other. Not only that, I'm going to explain to you about the frequency on this driverack too. Now remember I said that that both the lines are flat, and the reason why both the mains and the sub meters can go off at the same time at 0 dB and they flat with the paint noise, which is the best start off, is because I want to know where the performance is at from my hardware, my NS7. Now the question is, if you, let me hit this, if you're on the main output, normally people would high pass it, and this would change the frequency, but it's best to do it at music play instead of doing on paint noise, because you want to know where the frequencies are at. So I select output, I press the dot wheel twice, and it will take me to the volume. But if I want to do a high pass on the main, since I select out, I hit the data wheel, pressing it will say out, and then if you turn it to the right, you can start from anywhere from 20. My best pick for my speaker is, I have it 50. Now when you play the paint noise, the meters are going to look different because the frequency of it is changing. Same thing with the subs, and it's best to do it where your speakers recommend it to do. So let's say if you have a sub, you select the, okay, this is a sub channel now. Let's just say if your sub goes all the way down to, I always have mine set down to 20, and then the other end of the slope of the sub, I turn it to the left, and you can see it changing. Most people said you would either have to set to, some people had to set to 90 and down on the sub channel, so you can hear these frequencies on the sub channel, while the mains start from 50 and all the way up to 20K or whatever. But this is where you have to play around with. You have to listen to your speakers, and like I said on my other videos, if you don't ever do this, don't ever leave a hollow like this. They must work together. So if you stop at 63, let the subwoofer pick off on that frequency and then head down, so you get a full spectrum sound, so you're not getting a hollow sound. So that's a must do and to play around too. But anyway, just go through my link, watch my other videos so that you can see what's going on, because I'm trying to keep this short and I'm trying to make it, you know, as much understandable as possible without confusing you guys. But my best key is, it's best to just mess around with your dry rack, mess around with your main source right here, and mess around with your speakers, where you got power speakers or passive speaker with the amplifier. Say if you got 1 or 2 down there, or if you have a 4-channel amplifier, you would have channel 1 and 2 into the mains, and then channel 3 and 4 to the subs if you have a 4-channel amplifier. Or if you have 2 amplifiers, like I said, one amplifier does the, you know, high mids, and then the other amplifier does the lows. So it's all about just playing around with it. You know, once you get your limiter set right and all that, just play around with it. Just get to know your equipment. That's the only way you're going to win this battle. Because if I were to show you right now how I set it up, it might not be right for your equipment, because your equipment is not the same as mine. It all varies what software you're using, how you set up your drive rack, what speakers are using, whether they powered or non-powered. You just gotta, you know, and then not only that, what music you playing. So you just gotta dance around and just get to know your equipment. That's the only way you'll win the battle. I pretty much win my battle because I know how my system performs. So I'm just saying, just mess around with it. Just play around with it. Understand the relationship between clipping and limiting, and just understand what you're doing, how you set it up, what you're comfortable with setting it up. Like I said, most DJs would set their faders in the middle so they have more control when they DJ. But I'm the type of person, I keep it all the way up, and I use that to trim my volume when I'm doing mixing. So if I want to bring a mix in, I might turn this down a little bit and then turn this up as I'm bringing this in. But I mean, you don't have to do that, but that's just my way of doing it, because I'm comfortable doing it that way. Because the reason why I would have this turn all the way up, these faders are sensitive, man. I mean, if you were to make a good mix and you bump into it, that's what's going to happen. I mean, it's so sensitive. That's why I keep it all the way up and use this to adjust my volume, because it's more flexible. I ain't got to worry about overpowering my mixes when I'm bringing in the next song. So like if I have my set right there, and if I want to bring in the next mix and I happens to accidentally like flick it with my finger, I mean, it's so sensitive. It's best to use this setting when you're bringing in your mix and just tweak it, so that way you have more control of your volume instead of like this. I just think it's best to have it all the way up and then tweak it from there. It's more flexible. That's my opinion, but you don't have to do that. So anyway, you know, just go ahead and, you know, mess around with your dry racks and all that, and the paint noise, and just get the feel. Listen, get the feel. What's the problem? What I need to do? You know, just get the feel of it. And I mean, then you will soon win the battle when it comes to it. But always remember, even if you did know it like I do, when it comes to DJ in different spots and different areas, the sound is always going to be different. And this is where this comes in, the automatic EQing. That's your next best friend right there. That will take care of it. As far as the limiter and all that, it's already saved and set. Once you set your settings the way your speakers are capable of handling, then there you go. So yeah, go ahead and mess around with it, have fun with it. If you have any questions, whatever, you know what to do. Leave a comment below and I'll try my best to answer them. I'll let you later. Gotta go.